Today, we're diving into a crisis that kicked off on one single farm in China, but ended up sending massive shockwaves through the entire global food supply. We're unpacking an article by Yoichi Shimatsu that looks at an epidemic that is, frankly, as mysterious as it is absolutely deadly.
100%. If you're a pig and you get infected with African swine fever, that's your chance of survival. 0. This isn't a virus they can just fight off and recover from. It is a guaranteed death sentence. And back in 2018, that sentence started getting carried out across the world's biggest pork-producing nation.
Now, take a look at this. It's an old-school poster from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And yeah, it feels like a ghost from the past, right? But it perfectly captures the stakes of the modern catastrophe we're about to get into, the loss of a crucial food source on a scale that is just terrifying.
So, how did this whole thing even start? Well, the article explains that back in 2018, this wasn't some big, loud, declared emergency. No, it was a silent epidemic. It was unfolding behind a wall of censorship, not with blaring public alarms.
To really get the gravity of this, you just have to look at the numbers. China raises and eats half of all the pork in the entire world. We're talking about a herd of over 1 billion animals. A virus in a population that huge, well, it doesn't just stay put. It's a problem with immediate global consequences.
And the spread, it was unbelievably fast. According to the source, the virus basically leapfrogged across the country in just a couple of months, from a single farm way up in the Northeast all the way south toward the border with Vietnam. This wasn't some slow burn, it was a full-on explosion.
So, what exactly is this virus we're dealing with? The article paints a picture of something that's ruthlessly efficient. You could almost call it a perfect killer.
Okay, so here's the technical breakdown. African swine fever, or ASFV, is a double-strand DNA virus. Now, unlike some simpler viruses that mutate really fast and can sometimes get less harmful, this one is incredibly stable, and that's what makes it such a persistent and deadly threat. The author, Yoichi Shimatsu, he uses this fantastic visual description. It's a powerful image, isn't it? This idea of a snake biting its tail. It really hints at this robust, self-contained nature, which is what makes it such a tough enemy on a cellular level.
So how does it actually kill? Well, think of a cell like a little factory. The virus goes in and attacks the shipping and receiving department, these things called Golgi canals, and it completely shuts down the cell's ability to fix itself. This kicks off a catastrophic chain reaction. Organs start failing, oxygen gets cut off, and within 10 days, the pig basically suffocates from the inside out. It's just a brutal, brutal process.
And this brings us to the next part of our story, the investigation. I mean, how did a virus that's native to Africa suddenly show up and just devastate China?
Well, the article lays out two very different stories. The official response, it focused on banning food waste as pig feed. But the author, he points to a possibility that's way more sinister, that the virus came in on contaminated, expired, frozen pork that was illegally shipped from Eastern Europe and then sold as cheap animal feed.
And the author's reasoning really hinges on this one point. Natural transmission, from something like migrating wild boars, he says is basically impossible over the huge deserts and vast distances that separate the infected areas in Europe and Russia from China. So for him, the crucial takeaway is that human activity had to be involved. But the author, he goes even further. He argues that to really understand this outbreak, you have to look at the virus's long and pretty controversial history. He traces its journey across the globe, a journey that often gets tangled up in geopolitical conflict.
So according to the source, the virus got its start in Africa. But from there, the author lays out a path that is, let's say, very controversial. An outbreak in Cuba in 1971, which the Soviets reportedly blamed on the CIA. An appearance in Spain, chalked up to airline food. He even speculates there's a link between its spread in the Caucasus and regional conflicts. Now, these are the claims presented in the article.
This quote really shows you exactly how the author sees this event. For him, this wasn't just some random agricultural accident. Its arrival in China, the world's pork nation, was nothing less than a biological H-bomb.
So why does any of this matter outside of the pig farms? Well, the article argues this epidemic is a truly global issue with some really far-reaching consequences. Let's just ask that question directly. Why should someone in a totally different part of the world care about a pig virus in China?
Well, because the threats are all connected. It hits China's food security, which has always been a point of vulnerability for them. It became a bargaining chip in the US-China trade war, especially around soybean imports for animal feed. And it also shines a really harsh light on the dangers of industrial factory farming and raises that unsettling, ever-present question. Could a virus like this one day make the jump to humans?
And that brings us to the author's conclusion, which, honestly, is less of a summary and more of a philosophical warning for all of us. You see, the author actually used to work on a pig farm, and he ends with this really personal reflection. He contrasts the social, intelligent nature of pigs with what he calls our own self-destructive greed as humans. It's a jarring comparison, and it's really designed to make us question our entire relationship with the food that we eat.
And this is the final thought the article leaves us with. It's such a powerful and ominous image, a silent, mysterious threat just ticking away like a time bomb, waiting for some kind of moment of reckoning. It's a reminder that in our crazy interconnected world, a crisis on a farm somewhere can echo all across the globe, forcing us to confront questions that are way bigger than just, what's for dinner?